Topic number 5 says, we are not as happy as our enslaved ancestors were. So says an enslaver. So this comes with a video on YouTube. We shared up with you guys. This comes with a video on YouTube. Like I said, it's a 5-minute video. There's only the 3 of us on the panel, so we can have this discussion. Should read some of them. 5 says, we are not as happy as our enslaved ancestors were. It says an enslaver. So we're going to play the video, and then we will have a discussion on it.
What was life like in those early days?
As far as the colored people were concerned, I feel that they were a good bit happier than they are now. They had less in the way of material things. But I can remember back in their 20s, when I was a small boy, they were always singing at their work. They had a great sense of humor. Now today, they just don't seem to care much about that as they used to. And I think they've lost their sense of humor somewhat, which I deplore.
What do you think are the differences between the races?
I think there's a refusal to accept responsibility. I think there's a lack of motivation. I've tried here to promote people to foremen, superintendents, but they just refuse to do it. They just don't want the responsibility. They don't worry like the white man. If they have troubles, they go to sleep and wake up the next morning, and that trouble is over.
Is it possible that white people have something to do with the lack of ability for blacks to assimilate into this culture?
Absolutely. The white man has certainly been prejudiced and to quite an extent unfair. But customs die awful hard. It takes a long time, and everyone knew years ago that the Negro would have to be given equality. But in the South, knowing Negroes as we think we do, we realized it would take time. It's been compared to straightening teeth. It takes a slow, steady pressure. You can't do it with a hammer. And white people's attitudes will change in time. I'm a lot more liberal than I was 5 years ago, and I know I'll be a lot more liberal 5 years from now, and I think almost everyone else is in that category.
What has tended to make you more liberal?
Well, realization that the Negro is a human being like anyone else.
Mr. Hasty, what did you think we were before you began to think of us as human beings?
Well, in a way, we thought of you almost as a very superior pet, something, or rather someone, we had to take care of, because we had to do so much of their thinking for them. We had to do almost everything for them, except living their own lives. Anything outside, we had to do for them.
So Daisy was my little playmate, my maid, my friend, and the daughter of old Catherine, who was a cook that we adored. And so all those years, we played together, and everyone was happy. We never heard of all these things that we hear about today. And there were nearly 100 enormous rice plantations with many animals around and a beautiful old house and about 100 colored people there. But we loved them. They were our friends. And then it's no disgrace to say they're like children. When we say that, it's because they are like happy children, some of them. Because they like to sit in the sun and rather than work hard. And they'd rather play than work.
If you could, would you paint a picture for us of what it was like on the plantation in your early days?
It was a lovely, happy time living in open spaces with many lovely colored people. and animals and flowers and fields. My father had everything thoroughbred, from the pigs, horses, the dogs, and the people had to be thoroughbred. And we would get into a buggy with him and drive to the plantation from what we call the pine land where we lived. And we would spend, every Saturday this was, and we would spend a day in old Fortune, I can see him now, would give us dinner, and we would have a heavenly time. And old April, he was the dairyman. That's all he did, all he did was to skim the cream off of these great big bowls of clabber and put them in the wooden churn and churn this marvelous fresh butter. That was April's job. He didn't do anything else but love us and skim the cream.
Oh man, what a what a thing to be this black guy here and asking these white folks these types of questions, man. RBG in the chat said just because they ain't showing all their teeth does not mean they're not happy. Man, should have been stop number 5. We are not as happy as our enslaved ancestors were, says an enslaver. Let me saw Buana on this one. Let me mix it up. Buana, what are your thoughts on the fact that we aren't as happy as our enslaved ancestors were?
Well, shit, I wrote down some notes and listening to his comments, because you study these things, because what goes for back then, because we think this is way back then when the interview was, you get into the mind of a person like Donald Trump or anyone who currently leads in the country right now. So they said a few things that I wanted to say again. One of the things is he said that responsibility doesn't make them happy. Responsibility doesn't make them happy. That's an interesting thing to say. Then she said that, they imply that freedom is stressful for the black man. It's too stressful for them. They need to be told what to do. Then she said that he said that he's more liberal nowadays. And then he defined what liberal means. He said that liberal means that he sees black men as human beings too. Maybe not as human, or maybe not as sophisticated, but they're human beings too. So when people want to talk about this whole dynamic of liberal and conservatism, this is what the liberals believe. They believe that y'all humans too, but y'all ain't really up to par humans, but y'all human beings. We acknowledge y'all human beings, but y'all ain't really human beings like us. The lady said that the devil said that we saw them as our pets, and they still see the black man as the pet. Tim Scott. Tim Scott is Donald Trump's pet. Donald Trump said, he like another person who's running for the governor of Florida right now. I can't remember his name. He said that he is one of the smart ones. He's one of the smart ones. When you speak in that language, that's a pet language. He's our pet. He's the butler. He's something to be toyed with. Not even a human being. And it's interesting that she talked about, because we talked about it last week. There's a difference between social integration and economic integration. So she said when she was younger, we used to play with them. We used to play with them. They used to like to play. Say that the Negro likes to play and sit in the sun. They don't like to work. They just like to play. Now consider this white female devil probably never went into a field to pick any kind of wheat or cotton in her lifetime. But she say that they don't like to work. She probably never went into any kind of southern sun to pick nothing. But she is able to determine who want to work or who don't want to work. Probably never working a day in her life. The only work she did was probably on her back, giving children to this devil who was talking. But this is what she says. And this is indicative of the mind of the typical, unfortunately, the mind of the typical person right now, a European person living in the United States right now. This is the mindset. This is the reason why Donald Trump says, "Oh, we want to put Robert E. Lee, as a statue back into the U.S. government." Robert E. Lee, a person who was going against the United States. We're going to put him back. But Robert E. Lee thought like this. Robert E. Lee thought like this. And we're going to put his statue right back up in the faces of black people and stick out our tongue and say, nah, 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 nah. This man is talking about in terms of not wanting to work and not wanting to be responsible. Now consider all the tangible things that he got from his so-called hard work or other people's hard work. He sits with the ducks swimming in the pond in the back of him, probably in a whole swat, a big land. He probably has a large home. And all this was at the labor of black hands and black backs. But he said that black people don't really like the work and don't want a responsibility of freedom. This is the person who created this prompt was right. This is the commentary of an enslaver, but this is also the commentary of the person who's currently leading this country right now. I told y'all last week or the week before that Columbus Ghost is not dead, but neither is Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee still walking around the United States of America with that mindset, still walking around, and it's just crazy. But this is devil language, and devils can talk like devils. I don't expect no kind of other language to come out of their mouths, and it's not shocking to me at all. But I think that black people need to get this in their mind. When the brother talks about daddy's back, daddy's back. It's a throwback to when the Bahamians used to call Simonette daddy Simonette. You calling Donald Trump your daddy? Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. But unfortunately, this is the mindset of the enslaver. But unfortunately, this is also the mindset of the people who he enslaves as well. We have a self-fulfilling expectation, his expectation in doing the things that he talks about all the time. But there's always going to be a few people who will probably try to drown him in the back where that pawn is, and he have to watch out for people like us, but because all of us don't think like the butler. Some of us want to be free and we don't mind the responsibility of life and we don't run away from that. So I'll leave it there.
Good stuff, Juana. For real, good stuff. Let me just say that I put this prompt up, but it was sent to me by Azuli. So shout out to Azuli. For sending me this. I had never seen this video before. And in a strange way, the interviewer reminded me of Sir Lyndon Oscar Pinland. A guy, the first Bahamian prime minister who knew how to, in his own way, he knew what to do to kind of listen and dish it out to these white folks. If you guys remember, Sir Lyndon Oscar Pinland was on ABC News with I forgot the white woman's name now. When I was a kid, I used to remember her name because she died like the week after the interview. But he broke it down. It was like, you're gonna blame the Bahamas for the drug appetite in America? You're not got to be crazy. That was his punchline. I forgot her name now. She died. But I looked at this and again, thanks to Azuli for this. I couldn't believe this video when I saw it. But then I thought about it, like Buana said. And I realized that this is not only the mindset of the enslaved, of the enslaver, but a lot of the enslaved think like this too. Bakari was on early. He talked about that black man who they sent as an ambassador to Bahamas, the former football player. Can't think of his name right now. But he thinks like this. He thinks like this. Yeah, we're not as happy as we used to be. We used to be happier under the rule of guys like this on the screen. I forget the football. He used to play for the Giants. I forgot his name now. But yeah, guys like him think like this. So some of the enslaved do think like some of the children of the enslaver. It's very interesting. Anthony McPhail has told me Herschel Walker thinks like this, thinks along the lines of these white folks here. Speaking of Anthony McPhail, Anthony, what say you to what you saw here? First of all, though, let me just read. Real Black Gentleman said, just because they ain't showing all their teeth does not mean they are not happy. But Bakari in the chat says Herschel Walker. Absolutely, Bakari. You and Anthony came through for me on that one. Sister Ross says, so how come there were so many slave rebellions? Lastly, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, it's one thing to think with malevolence. There's another to do malevolence and believe what you are doing is benevolent. That's the part that always got me. These guys believe the lies that they tell. And some of us believe the lies that they tell, which is wild to me. But I digress because I'd like to hear what Anthony has to say about all of it. Anthony, you've seen everything everyone else had to say from the chat to the panel. What say you?
Yeah, okay. No, it was funny, man. It's still tickle me. You said that Erzuli said it to you. But hey, I seen this video about go ahead, Coco, go ahead.
No, I was just chuckling. Yeah, Zuli's done this to me.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's funny. Hey, I seen the video. I seen this probably about 5 years ago. It was a matter of fact, it's a part 2 and 3, I think. But anyway, I was writing to you in the other chat, Coco, was that Bill Cosby had some kind of affiliation with this. Okay, now if you see from the beginning of the show, see it start off and it has a picture of a black man. As a matter of fact, it's Bill Cosby, I think. They have his face and with an American flag dripped over it. Okay, and they be playing a banjo with it, down, something like that. It was playing a banjo, but it was from 1968. The program is from 1968. You know, and like now they started off with that part right there, but they also had the black response. They went and did the interview with the black people. You know, and you heard the real story then. But so I seen it before. You know, I think I got it archived, several of those videos archived. But I mean, it really ain't much to say. I mean, because we already know what time it is. I mean, in that interview, I thought he did a brilliant job, man. My favorite part was when he asked the old hunky. He said, "Well, what did you think we were before you thought we were humans?" You know what I'm saying? He said, "What did you think we were at first?" You know what I'm saying? And I always say that. Okay, like during our enslavement here and our enslavement everywhere. You know, I mean, to those people, we were nothing more than the muse, you know, and beast of burden and everything. You know what I'm saying? That's their livestock. We were counted as livestock. You know, that's how the white folks used to look at the indigenous people of Australia. They didn't refer to them as people. They didn't say no people. They said no people lived here. They referred to them as fauna. They were just part of the landscape, the flowers and stuff, the shrubbery. You know, that's the kind of thinking that them people had then, and that's the kind of thinking that they have, that a lot of them have now. You know what I'm saying? They don't see the humanity. That's why, Coco, when you look at some of those old pictures, you can see 10,000 people in Waco, Texas in 1917 barbecuing a 17-year-old black boy alive. Jesse Washington. It's why you see they let school out early for the children to come and see it. Why they got little girls out there looking up at it. Why to see this black man getting tortured, you know what I'm saying, hung on a tree, you know what I'm saying, testicles ripped out, and all the stuff they did. Why they could stand up around and watch a man tied to a stake or something on the ground and pour coal oil on him and burn him alive. They don't see your humanity. They don't see you as, and even if they see you as a human, they see you as a subhuman, you know, as a 3/5 human. You know, and all of these hunkies that we worship running around, fathers of countries, and you know, George Washington's and Thomas Jefferson's and all, and Abraham Lincoln's, and all these people who we worship and idolize and hold up as great presidents, how these people personally despised us. Everything about us. You know what I'm saying? Abraham Lincoln, you know, yeah, we're gonna try to send these niggas away from him. You know what I'm saying? These niggas don't have no rights that we gonna respect. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way they feel now. They can't do it now like they used to do it. So they're using coded languages and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they do things like, okay, we gonna erase history out of the classroom. We're gonna take all that bad stuff out of classroom. Of course, I mean, these people know good and well what they're doing. You think they actually believe that? I mean, now you know you have some of the older generation who actually believe that shit. But you think that some of these motherfuckers actually believe that black people loved working for 248 years on a plantation and get their back tan and get their back ripped open with a bull whip? You know what I'm saying? Young women and young girls and even young boys and even men get raped, you know, in front of everybody. You know, buck breaking and all this old mess. You actually think them people think we was happier back then? Like Sister Ross said, well, why the hell we call them damn slave rebellions if we was happy? No, we was some happy Negroes. I mean, why we tried to kill Massa? You know, I mean, come on, man. You know, this, you know, it's just like these people like to do things to remind you of who they are and to remind you of who they believe you are, to keep you in your place. You know what I'm saying? You stay in your place, boy. You stay in your place, girl. You know what I'm saying? You know where y'all come from. You know how it used to be. You know, it's still here now. It's just, you know, it's just like apartheid in South Africa. You know, it didn't go away. It changed clothes, and so they changed their clothes right here, right now. They found another way. They found other ways to lynch you. They found other ways to enslave you, and they found other ways to do everything that they want to do to you. And at the end of the day, when that shit don't work, they'll do it all again. You know, if you let them. But no, man, you know, it's just a bunch of bullshit, man. You know that them wanting to bring back, basically want to bring back slave, put your ass in slavery again. You know what I'm saying? In their mind. That's what I mean. They always look at it like it's going with the wind. No, Donald Trump ain't from down south nowhere. Talking about bringing back Robert E. Lee. You know all this shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it's all of them. But they had that tradition, this thing of what they believe America is. That's why when I be talking to Buona, I talk to Buona about it, like, don't call me an American. You know, it's because I know what an American is. You know, I know that an American is a European settler who came over here and stole somebody's shit and genocided them and then bought us over and enslaved us. That's the American. They don't never look at you as American. Buona, if you can call me an American all day, guess what? Them white folks don't never look at me as an American. Me or when they see me or Koku or anyone else walking down the streets of the USA, they don't ever look at us like we know Americans. We some Africans, we some Negroes, we some whatever they want to call us, but we ain't none of them. You know what I'm saying? And that's their mentality. You ain't none of them.
Anthony, I want see for me, right? I don't mean to interrupt your wisdom, brother. Yeah, what I want is to get rid of the coded language. I don't like the coded language. This man is a savage in the suit. See, all of us drool in the mouth because we was talking about the black man walking around in an Italian suit in sub-Saharan weather. This guy is no different. He's a thug. He's a gangster. But we look at him as a civilized. To me, he's a civilized savage. You know what I mean? He looks civilized. He's speaking proper English. He have a coat suit on with a nice little necktie or whatever. And you don't see him, and most people don't see him as a representative when they think of a criminal and a gangster. They don't look at him like that. Or Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a gangster wearing a suit, but we see him as a businessman because he's wearing a suit. He is no different from the gangster on the corner who trying to rob you at the end of it. No different. They just wearing different clothing. And they speak in a different kind of vernacular, but he's a gangster. So, man, listen, man, I tired of the don't say DEI. Say, man, I don't want I don't want the niggas to get out. Be blunt about it. You know, be outright about. I mean, why play the game? Why play the game? You know what it is. So we don't say Ketanji Brown Jackson is a DEI hire. Just say I don't want that black bitch on a Supreme Court running the country and governing the laws. Come out and say it. You know what I mean? Be blunt about it, because you ain't fooling no one. You ain't fooling no one. You believe in freedom of speech. Say what you gotta say. Come out and be the gangster. Show the world the gangster what you actually are. I don't like the coded language, brother. I don't like it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
same with
It's exactly. This is what I'm saying, Warner. Like, and when it for like you said, everybody though, but like for us, me and you, and like brothers like us who we know. See, I know when I see him, I don't see the cultured, refined man. You know what? I know I know that he's a savage. No, even when he put the suits on, because you know what I remember. I know that the ones who we think the savages, they took their marching orders from him. You know what I'm saying? When they went out to go and find a brother and go lynch him, they got out. They took their marching orders from somebody like him. You know what I'm saying? That from the governor, from whoever else. You know, all of the people in power. They didn't do shit by themselves because they couldn't think for themselves. They took it from people like that. But yeah, man, you know, go ahead, Coco.
The one thing I will disagree with you, brother Anthony, slightly disagree with you is that we got to remember that they propagandize their own people. By the way, shout out to Wardrum who's in the chat. They propagandize their own people. So a lot of like a little ditzy bitch like this white woman here, she probably really believes that black folks was happy in the sun, playing like children, right? Because they propagandize them to believe certain things. The white boy, he probably doesn't really believe that, you know, the shit that she's talking, but she probably really believes that, oh, they were happy. They were like children and all that, because they propagandize them for that. I'm not saying all, but a good number of them are propagandized. And unfortunately, like Brother Bakari says here, most of us have been propagandized too. We believe the bullshit that they're talking. We believe some of the stuff that they're saying. I remember hearing Tommy Sotomayor, and I know everything that there is to know negative about Sotomayor, but I heard him say, you know, white folks were the coaches, and they coached the team, and we carried out the instructions, just like she would have said. A lot of us believe the lies, but a lot of them have been lied to as well, and they believe the lies. The white boy knows better.
Hey, that's what I was saying, Coco. Hey, but Coco, that's what I was saying at the end when I said who they got their marching orders from.
Right. The white boy is, like you said, is one of the people that they would have gotten their marching orders from. A guy just like this. But the white bitch involved, she's just propagandized. She's just, you know, head in the clouds, and she believes what the white man tells her. You know what I mean? Real quickly, Sister Roy in the chat says the Caucasoids are not human. When will we get that? She says, name one thing that makes them human. She says, our planet has been invaded a long time ago. And she said, and then the Wardrum, shout out to Wardrum. Wardrum comes through and says, we have no reason to stay in America. With that said, man, if there's no last thoughts on this prompt, I'd like to get to some shout outs this week. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt, gentlemen? All right, so let's get to the shout outs. The shout outs could be anything positive you saw in the black world, any victory, any win you saw in the black world. It could be a book you read, a movie you saw. What are your shout outs this week, Anthony?
Oh man, I think my shout out, man, you know, for this week is oh, I had a funny shout out. But look, you know what? I'm just gonna shout out, man, you brothers on the panel, man, because you know it was just us tonight with Black Steel. He got sick, he wasn't feeling too well. But how we hung in there, man, and we had a good discussion, man. We learned from each other, man, and you know, man, this was all about, man. You know, sometimes it ain't gonna be that many of us, you know. But you know what? It ain't gonna stop us from doing what we got to do, man, and discussing and learning and knowing and informing our brothers and sisters and everything. So shout out to Buana and shout out to you and shout out to Black Steel, man, and for everybody in the chat.
I appreciate that. And Anthony, real quick before I go to Buana, is there anything going on in your neck of the woods for Labor Day weekend, like as far as black culture and stuff like that?
Oh no, man, but I think Oba Feminim got something supposed to be going on up there in Arkansas though. But you know, right to the north of me, but no, not down here. We hadn't planned anything, man. You know, we won't do that.
All right, 'cause I think a lot of the turnout issue tonight was because, especially like in New York here, it's Labor Day weekend and you have the West Indian Day Parade on Monday, and there's all sorts of festivities, opportunities to drink, wind down the place, and all that kind of stuff. So I imagine Kofi them might be engaged this weekend, and others as well. Not to point him out, but so I think that might be the reason why turnout is a little low here tonight. All right, so I was just curious if you guys were doing anything for Labor Day weekend. In the chat, Trigabi262 says, I recently watched Kirikou. Don't really like that a white man made it, but it makes me think about the role of theater and how we push our cosmology consistently to our people. Again, if you guys in the chat have any shout outs you want to post your shout outs, I'll read them live on the air before we sign out tonight. Buana, what would you like to shout out this week?
Yeah, I don't mind the low numbers from time to time. What's more important to me is the quality of the discussion. And I think that Anthony, I mean, brother, he's a brilliant mind. And I think that anyone on the sound of our voices would learn a whole lot in just listening to the level of the discussion. You know, we may not have the numbers of live TV where certain people go on there to proliferate that nonsense. But I think that anyone who would listen to these kinds of discussions would have a good kind of takeaway on the thinking of Black men, all and women, and historical things and all manner of different subjects. There's a sophistication in our dialogue from time to time that is invaluable. And sometimes I don't always get the largest audience, but I don't mind it. As long as the quality of the discussion is good, I applaud that. So shout out to you and shout out to Anthony. Shout out to Dr. Carr, Greg Carr. Dr. Greg Carr did something on Calypso in one of the discussions he had earlier today on his platform, and I thought it was an interesting discussion because he started singing Calypso and all. I shout out to Dr. Greg Carr. I didn't know he was an old Calypsonian, and he could sing some Calypso songs. Being from America, you boy, listen, you really never know until you sit down and talk to each other how we are so intricately involved in our cultures and cultural dynamics. Some of the things that Anthony says about Caribbean history and the music and culture, you don't think people have even in touch like that. You know, you think that people just have one space and one particular view of the world until you sit down and start listening and talking to them, and you have a completely different view. So shout out to Dr. Greg Carr for bringing some background and historical information on Calypso and how it was formed and all that good stuff. And one last thing I had to say, but I forget now. But shout out to all the brothers and sisters who listened to our discussion, who contributed. I don't know if Coco hit his goal. I'm a contribute as well, but probably not right now. I'll probably do it later on. But shout out to all the brothers and sisters who would have listened to us dialogue and talk about the various different subjects and contributed in the chat, man. Shout out to all y'all guys.
Appreciate that, Buana. Yeah, shout out to Sister Ron Butter Bakari who contributed to the goal. We fell short of it, of course, but it's a step in the right direction. We gotta support the things that we really believe in. So shout out to them for showing their support and showing that they believe in what we do here, even though the numbers might be low. Shout out to what Buana said earlier about the conversation and the quality of conversation. Anthony wants to shout out the school teachers in the Bahamas fighting for better pay and facilities so they can educate the children of the Bahamas, ending the strike. So shout out to Anthony for even keeping up on that kind of thing.
He more informed than me because I don't even read the papers no more. Oh, one last thing, Koku. There's a gentleman an Ethiopian black man in Washington, D.C. His name is Haile Garema. We talked about theater and making cinema. He made a great movie called Sankofa Trigger Happy, if you want to watch a movie. I don't know if you watched that yet. Sankofa. It's a great movie, brother. You know, if you have some time, you know, give it take a look at it. You know, when you have some time.
Yeah, he a bad brother, man. Or Haile Gerima a bad dude.
Yeah, we were supposed to, man. It's just about time and coordination, but we were supposed to do a review of that movie some time ago. Maybe we can get back on track with that eventually, Buana. But we should do a rewatch and do a review of that movie. It's been a while. And check out some of his other films like Trigger Happy would suggest. Also, the Sister Ross says, shout out to Black Men Obsolete, Single and Dangerous by Haki Madhabuti. I read about Haki Madhabuti when I was researching African-centered education. So thanks for pointing him out. He's out of Chicago.
Coco. He runs Third World Book Press.
Third World Book Press? Okay, I'll check it out. Even that I was thinking about earlier today, how to get ownership of some of those out of print Black publications and bring those back. Like I'm always thinking about these different things that we can do. So I'll look into that as well. Man, I want to thank you guys for a great night. My shout out is to you guys and to everyone else who's associated with the program. Shout out to Brother Bakari, Trigger Happy 262, Sister Raw, KW Dawn 7. Shout out to Anthony McPhail, Buana, Black Steel, Feel Better. Shout out to Kofi the Black Critic, the Matron, who's doing excellent work, doing her readings during the week. Shout out to all of you. We'll be back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, post your, join the Discord, post your Shoot the Breeze prompts, add an attachment that we can look at, a video or a tweet or something, and we'll discuss those as well. Join us on the panel as well in the future so we can have more robust conversations. Until then, until next week, you guys be good. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.